guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be making my version of cinnamon raisin sandwich bread, except it's gluten-free, and I'm going to show you how. So to get started, I'm going to combine about 2.5 cups of some warm water. I try to keep it between 100 to 110 degrees Fahrenheit to ensure that I don't disturb the yeast, but it still wakes up and becomes active. So I got about 2.5 cups of water here, and to this I'm going to be adding a tablespoon of yeast. You can do a bit more if you want. It doesn't make that much of a difference. And the last thing I'm going to be adding is 2 teaspoons of sugar or honey. I prefer honey, but if you prefer sugar, you can use that. And I'm going to give this a good stir and then let it set aside for 10 minutes. While I let my yeast mixture bubble away, I've taken a cup of golden raisins. You can use black ones if you want. And I'm just going to submerge these with some boiling water to plump them up. So now I'm just going to let this sit on the side until I need it after I make my psyllium gel. Moving on, once your yeast mixture looks like a foamy beer or it's been 10 minutes, either of them work, you're going to add in half a tablespoon of flaxseed meal and just stir it in. After you add your flaxseed meal, you're going to add 2.5 tablespoons of psyllium husk powder, and this kind of creates the gluten and chewiness to the bread. And the last thing to add at this step is a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. And make sure that you stir really fast when adding this because it causes the mixture to coagulate. Now while I let this mixture sit for 5 minutes to gel, I'm going to take a medium-sized bowl and start adding in some of my dry ingredients. To my dry ingredients, I'm going to start off by adding 220 grams of milled brown rice flour, 150 grams of milled sorghum flour, 150 grams of tapioca starch or flour, a teaspoon of kosher salt or pink salt, one that doesn't have iodine. And since this is cinnamon raisin bread, I'm going to be adding a tablespoon of cinnamon. Now, just using my whisk from earlier, I'm going to give this a good mix and set it aside. Now, my last step that I don't want to forget is going to be straining off my raisins, because I'm going to be adding these together with the psyllium husk, mixing it together and then adding it into my flour. So I'm just going to strain it off and try to wring out as much liquid as I can and set these back aside. So I've combined my golden raisins that I've let just drain out with the psyllium husk gel. And now perhaps my most difficult part of the whole bread making process will be combining this mixture with the flour. If you have access to it, you can use a stand mixer, or you can even put it in a bread maker and just have it on a knead cycle. But for the visual presentation, I'll be doing it by hand to show it you guys. Now I'll just be adding this to my dry ingredients. And this can require you to use your hands, which is okay. But I'll show you what this dough looks like once I have it completely combined. Now that I've created the sticky mess that's often referred to as a dough, I'm going to dust my counter with just a little bit of tapioca starch. And I'm going to pour my dough, or scrape my dough, over here onto the counter. So I had kneaded this and it's gotten a lot more moist and it's absorbed a lot more moisture. But the reason why I'm dumping it onto my counter with a little bit of tapioca starch is so I can shape it so it fits my 9x5 pan very well. So I'm just going to be giving a little bit of tapioca starch and try to shape it so that it can fit onto this parchment paper sliver that I will drop into my pan. Alright, I've shaped this quite well, and now I'm just going to be putting it onto my parchment paper here. And by using this parchment paper, I can sort of drop this down into my loaf pan. Like that. Now, I'm going to let this sit in a warm area until it's about 1.5 times its size, or up until it doubles. But I'm going to try my best not to overproof it, because it's gonna then deflate in the oven. So I'll just let this sit in an oven with its light on for about 15 to 20 minutes because it's a bit hotter in mine, until it's about 1.5 times its size. Now that my bread has proofed about 1.5 times its size, this is what it looks like. It's almost filled the pan. And now I'm just gonna bake it for about 45 minutes at 375 degrees. And then I'll go from there to see if it's cooked enough. So I'll see in 45 minutes what this looks like. So it's been about 45 minutes and it looks done on top, but I don't trust that this is gonna be done. So what I like to do is I'm gonna cook this for another 15 minutes at least. Except I'm gonna turn the heat down so that the bottom doesn't burn as bad. From anywhere from 330 degrees to 350. So I'm just gonna try 345. Keep in mind that there's a plus minus of how hot that might be. But I wanna make sure that the interior is completely cooked, and I generally cook this type of bread for an extra 15. Now that it's been an extra 15 minutes, I like how this looks. So I'm just gonna leave this to sit in here to cool off overnight. And it's gonna be perfect because it's gonna slowly cool down and finish cooking anything that's left over that's raw. So I'll just close this up, turn off my oven, and let it sit. And now that this is completely cooled off, you can see, take the parchment paper off. And this is how I made it. So if I go to slice this open, you can see it's got perfect raisins and it's completely cooked inside. So I hope you give this recipe a try. It's one of my favorite breads to eat in the morning. Hope you enjoy. Recipes in the description. And until next time, goodbye.